in here and I've probably seen it already.
Yeah, probably, right? You've been doing enough of these now. Sorry, guys.
Are we
All
live?
right, so we're off and rolling. Finally.
We are, yeah.
Maybe. Yeah,
Here we are.
Here we go.
We finally did it.
Technical difficulties are out of the way, hopefully.
They're my most favorite thing.
Yeah. Totally. So welcome to episode 3 of the Ruck and Rise podcast, and we have our first guest on the episode or on the show, Shaun Taylor.
Woohoo!
Yes, bike holder. Got that spot.
The man.
So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotta slide in there before anyone else.
I know. Yeah, even before Corey Hutt. I wonder what he's going to say about that.
Be that guy.
Yeah, there'll be some salty.
Now I'm even more pleased.
There'll be some salty players for sure. So
That's right.
And I'm just going to go through.
Okay, you're talking at the same time.
Oh.
Go ahead, Shaun.
No. I was just saying I'll be the first one to tease him about it as well.
Yeah. Good. Excellent. I'll give a little bit of a bio, a little bit of background on Shaun, and then Shaun, feel free to fill in whatever I'm missing or anything that you want to add on it. And really, I've just kind of pulled from what I've read off you. But the first thing I'm going to add is Shaun, pretty much overall, just an awesome dude. You know, kind of kicking ass at the game of life. But background-wise, so retired Tier 1 operator, warrant officer. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Police college, use of force instructor, computer system engineer, teacher, author, international security consultant, coffee shop owner, and I'm gonna throw in coffee connoisseur. I've heard enough on the coffee end of things that this man knows
the best coffee. Yeah,
which is fantastic. High performance race coach, martial artist, 24-hour solo mountain bike world champion. That's super appealing to myself, former mountain bike racing enthusiast, and podcaster. And like I said, just an overall awesome guy. So welcome, Shaun, to the show. And anything you want to touch on your end of bio-wise?
No, I think you pretty much captured it all. As you both probably know, it makes me uncomfortable just to hear my own resume. So I think we'll just keep it as is.
Just skip over that. I've actually been listening to some of the episodes from oh my God, I'm drawing a blank.
The Collective.
The Collective. Thank you. Yes. Holy first brain fart of the night. And one of the episodes you guys talked about that, about how you guys especially felt uncomfortable hearing praise and even sometimes giving praise. And also in one of the episodes in January, you talked about how your son over COVID, one of your sons had written a book and that it was really good. And I was like, holy crap, this 17-year-old has written a book. Like, way to lead by example.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some more praise. Sorry.
How's the weather there anyway? Is it nice?
Yeah.
It's all very impressive stuff. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so,
the topic for tonight,
so
we can jump in.
Shaun doesn't even really know. He just pulled into this episode and pulled into this podcast.
Oh, good though. This is my style of communication. Is the mystery of the moment. What's going to happen not only in the now, but 2 seconds from now. We're kind of shaping the conversation now rather than pre-planning it. You know.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, where it could go anywhere.
Exactly. I love it. So. Topic of tonight and the motto that I've sort of kind of taken on over the last I don't know, well,
a couple of years for sure.
Yeah, a few years anyways, is because I can. And I'll elaborate on that. It stems from being able to push my body physically and to push challenging, sports endeavors and that sort of thing. And I sort of took that motto on a number of years back, but more recently when, so my sister, she was diagnosed with multiple myeloma in 2019. And in 2018, she had just sort of started running again or getting into running. So my family background, I was always kind of the sports sibling or the sports child between my sister and I. It's just the two of us. And then Jocelyn, my sister, was more of the music arts thing. Not to say that she wasn't active early on in life, and played soccer and high jump and that sort of thing through elementary school. But she was sort of more the artsy and music person, and I was the sports guy. So it was very exciting for me when she decided to kind of take on this this challenge of running a 5K race. So 2018, I'm pretty sure it was 2018.
Yeah, I think so.
We ran our first 5K race together, which was really special for me. I had been spending my whole life running races and doing sporting things. So to have her involved was really special. And then, unfortunately, and she was going to, plan on continuing through that journey and on that path of, doing some more 5K races, maybe even a 10K. And then, 2019, early on, I'm going to say January, February came around. And that was when the diagnosis came out. And so obviously her life kind of took on a different direction where it became just sort of combating cancer, really. And so I started to train for events. I was training for Iron Warrior that year in 2019, and then sort of developed that motto or that mentality. Well, I'm going to push my body and I'm going to push myself through these challenging physical times because I can, because my body is allowing me to do it. I don't have any physical limitations. Only limitations that I have are in my mind. And there's no reason that I can't push myself to train harder, to go faster, to be stronger. There's nothing stopping me in my way. And so when it came to my sister, she didn't have that option. So that was sort of, taken away from her. So I continue to push myself to the limits or push past the limits or create new boundaries. Simply because I can, because my body will allow me to do it. And you never know when things could turn around and change and you can't, and you don't have that opportunity. So that's kind of the topic in the discussion tonight is why we take on the challenges that we do physically. I know Shaun, obviously 24-hour mountain bike solo champion. You're no stranger to kind of, pushing your body to the limits and pushing past boundaries in that sense as far as training goes. And, we'll maybe get into, what drives you to that, or what's driven you, in the past and all along to kind of reach the levels that you've attained, because obviously world champion, it doesn't get much more of a higher level than that.
Yeah. And then how it ties into helping you get through other like just life challenges that get thrown your way, whether it's grief or illness or whatever, how doing these physical things comes back and just kind of gives you the mental strength to get through it.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a firm believer that I feel blessed to have had sports in my life and to train through various things. I was a hurdler years ago, and that methodical step-by-step process of, how you get yourself 100 meters, 110 meters down the track over 10 hurdles. It doesn't just happen instantly. It is a progression.
Practice.
And it's a step-by-step progression, and it's repetition, and it's repetition of small motor movements and small motor skills that are developed. And I really think that has enabled me to kind of overcome a lot of other barriers and a lot of other obstacles, mentally that I've been faced with relative, I'm not going to say with ease, but certainly with, the skill set or the tools.
And just so you know, Jocelyn is doing fairly well. She's in treatment still, or again, currently, but she's also on a new fitness journey that is kind of covered by her doctors, and they're helping her get her strength back and everything like that. And she's doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. So
Shaun, do you want to? Are you done, Dave?
I would love to know your thoughts on, like I say, kind of what what in your background and what in your past has brought you to some of the achievements and some of the levels? Like what's kind of taken you to, sort of overcome or mentally crash down those barriers or break down those barriers to push to that next level?
Well, I think that I'll start off by saying I do believe I'm no different than anyone else out there. I think that anyone can achieve mm, whatever they want to achieve as long as they apply enough focus, discipline, intensity against the timeline. You'll get what you want, but you got to want it, and that's the trick.
Right.
And so you said a couple of things there that are interesting to me. One is that you're a hurdler, which I mean, hopefully you knew your wife before you claimed that you're a hurdler. You know what I'm saying? So that's out of the way. When you look at the idea of hurdling, I think that there's three distinct phases as a hurdler, and there's also an overarching important theme that I'll talk about once I describe the three phases. The first one is maybe you're in the blocks and you're about to punch off. So you've got to achieve a certain velocity to hit that first hurdle. And that velocity starts from zero and goes up to the optimal velocity in order to clear that hurdle as efficiently and effectively as possible to
Mhm.
set you up for the next hurdle. And so every hurdle along the way requires a certain velocity, a certain pace, a certain amount of focus in order to clear each hurdle. And then once you've cleared the last hurdle, then you've got to just lean in a little bit more. You've got to increase your velocity just a touch more to take you over the line, kind of leaning across the line, which is different than when you're on the hurdles, which is different than when you're in the blocks. So there's three different velocities, three different approaches because you have three different problems in front of you. What is interesting about hurdling, I think, is that as you're in training, if you get six hurdles down and you clip that sixth hurdle, it falls down, and then you clear 7, 8, 9, and 10, and you come across the finish line with a beautiful time, maybe your best time ever. Now you're looking back at hurdle six, and it's all for naught. The
Right.
best time ever didn't even happen because of that one hurdle, because of that minor error, as it were. And so I think it's an interesting metaphor or a good analogy for life that hurdling, in a way, is a reflection of life. Depending on how much you focus on the hurdle, depending on how much you focus on the error, depending on whether you're focusing on the overarching theme, there's
Mhm.
lots of ways we could tease out hurdling into an entire podcast, I'm sure.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts?
And yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up, that metaphor for, kind of anything in life. Because I'll be honest with you, when my track and field coach approached me about hurdling or becoming a hurdle, um, you know, I can still remember standing, at the start blocks, or standing at the start of the track and looking down and seeing 10 hurdles, and thinking, how am I going to achieve this? How am I going to get over those hurdles? And so, and at the time, I was probably naive and didn't sort of recognize or realize that, well, it doesn't happen overnight and it doesn't happen instantly, and you don't just sort of jump out of the blocks and all of a sudden you're
And
going
if
to
you were
clear
looking
10
at, sorry,
hurdles and be successful with it. You're absolutely right. It's broken down into a lot of steps and a lot of movements. And I mean, we spent time, we spent hours and hours and hours just in the blocks and just exploding out of the blocks. And then we would spend hours and hours and hours just lead leg drills, just that lead leg up to the hurdle, lead leg up to the hurdle over and over again. And then same with the trail leg, just trail leg up to the hurdle, trail leg back, trail leg up. And then yeah, clearing the hurdle. And so it was hours and repetition and repetition and repetition, so that it became, that muscle memory was there. And then over time, after practicing, and then you start to clear one hurdle, and you repeat it. You do it again. You go back to the blocks. You come out of the blocks, and you hit that same first hurdle, and then you're on to two hurdle because you're getting the steps in. You're getting the proper steps in between, and so you're hitting the next hurdle. And so after a while, you kind of go, yeah, okay, I've cleared one hurdle, cleared two hurdles. It's no different. The recipe is the same. The movements are the same. now I can get myself through 10 hurdles and I can carry on. So that initial looking down the track and seeing 10 obstacles, if you will, well, hurdles, literally hurdles, and kind of having this, this mind blockage of, I don't think I can do this. How am I going to do this? To then going through, well, I can do this because I've trained for it. I've spent the time, put the time in. I've spent time on the repetition. I've got the movements down. And next thing you know, you're clearing the hurdles, and hopefully you're winning events, and
life.
the metaphor goes on to you're winning at life because you've established the tools and the repetition to get yourself over hurdle 1 and then over hurdle 2 and then to the finish line. So I agree. I think it's personally, I think it's a great metaphor for tackling kind of anything in life, or how you approach anything in life. You can't always look at just big picture and get overwhelmed with it. You have to be able to break it down into.
And yet you did. And so how did you change your ways? Because you didn't change your ways overnight. What was it that changed your way? What was it that had you look down that track and think, oh, I'm going to be the best hurdler in the world?
Right. Yeah,
which is a really embarrassing slogan, by the way. So.
Nerd alert.
It's funny, and I met my my track and field kind of idol. So Mark McCoy, 92 Olympics. He was the gold medalist for the 110 hurdles, and
that was your coach?
No, it wasn't my coach.
Oh,
no,
I was going to say, holy Englehurt, wow.
No, I met him at a conference. I don't know, probably 6 or 7 years ago, through the sport massage therapy community. And I was so excited to meet him because I had posters of him on my wall. And
did you get all limbered up before you went into the
probably
the warm up back there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just practicing your imaginary hurdle in front of him.
Yeah. I was setting tables up just to show off. So, but I remember meeting him and getting a picture taken, having a conversation with him, and I'll be honest with you, I found him like he was pretty arrogant, really.
That's too bad. That sucks.
It was almost a letdown.
Yeah, it is a letdown because that just kind of ruins
he was
it.
So talented.
Yeah.
But the personality just didn't really fit, unfortunately. So
dang.
But it happens, man. And so then what? Like, what did you think then?
What's that?
So it happens, but then, like, how do you process that? What were your initial thoughts?
Well, initially I thought, like, wow, it was hard to process at the time because, like I say, I had built this individual up so much over the years, following through high school and stuff, and so to have that initial conversation, I don't know, like I say, it was a bit of a letdown, and I kind of thought, it's unfortunate because there were a couple of other Olympic athletes that were in the room as well, and they were so genuine and so humble and so nice to have conversation with, and I really, really enjoyed. And they were open to having conversation, whereas unfortunately Mark was fairly closed off, and so I sort of started to direct myself towards having conversation with the other athletes, because I want to have conversation with people that are inspiring and nice.
Yeah, you want to surround yourself. Yeah.
Sure. Do you think that he, and now I'm just using this individual as an example, do you think an individual like that is demonstrating their authentic self in these smaller gatherings versus, like, if they were in front of a microphone, like if they were podcasting, they would have a different vibe about them? What do you think?
Yeah, interesting. I do sort of think that maybe there was a bit of a facade there. Maybe there was a bit of a, it was like I say, it was a conference. It was a room full of sport massage therapists that were many were headed on to work at the next Olympics, and many were headed on to Pan Am Games and things like that. And so yeah, you could kind of get the sense that maybe it was a little bit of a show, and hopefully perhaps just like one-on-one in a room where it was just the two of us, could have got maybe more of a genuine conversation, a genuine person. So
In my experience, arrogance is arrogant everywhere.
Well, so I tend to agree. However, I have a curious mind, so I don't even know the dude, and I'll never meet him. And he's actually just acting as an avatar right now.
Yeah.
So as I look at the issue and what you just said there, Dave, is something that I was going to start digging towards. Is I wonder if, based on when he was an Olympian, and based on it was a modern, we'll call it a now performing athlete group, that we're going to be going on to support near future things that are relevant. Maybe he felt irrelevant in a room full of relevancy, and so
Yeah.
therefore he was kind of like flaring out, unnecessarily.
right.
That's a
Yeah.
good point too.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, it makes sense anyways. Yeah.
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 But I could be totally wrong. But it's still amusing.
Yeah.
It was still, I still quite enjoyed the day. I got to, like I say, I got to finally meet him, and then, like I say, meet a number of other Olympic athletes that were just, and anyone that I've interacted with as far as high performance level athletes go, they're, yeah, they're great to talk to, and they're great to sort of almost study in a way, to sort of watch their habits and their schedule, and how sort of disciplined they are with a lot of aspects in life, because it's not just their sport that they're incredibly successful with, or disciplined with, but it's sort of schooling, education, all kinds of other things in life, because they've they've been able to develop that same sort of disciplinary regime that they put forth in everything that they do, regardless whether it's training for an event, or it's training for an education or a job or a career, or just trying to better themselves and then better the people around them. So I've always found it very fascinating to sort of interact with people that have achieved sort of high level performance in sport, because I find it really overlaps within their their general lifestyle as well.
Yeah. And you kind of go about life that same way.
Sure. Yeah. And they're inspiring.
Yeah. So yeah, you're going to surround yourself, even if you're not with them all the time, you're going to read about them or follow them, or, because that's going to build you up too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that at some point it becomes less of an architectured approach, and by that I mean, like, you are constantly focusing on building your house, or building your stack of subset skills, or whatever the case is. I think that at a certain point it just becomes who you are, and so there's that old quote of, the way you do one thing is the way that you do 1,000 things. And so I think that there's a certain point in someone's life where, if they've been focused, disciplined, dedicated to their craft, if it's being an athlete or an artist or a whatever you want to name within any industry, if you really want to become good at that, if you want to see your full potential in that, then you've just got to run your life a certain way. And as you run it in a certain way, it just becomes more and more normal, until, if you've got the luxury of looking backwards and having a very clear mind, you can see the delta, or the difference between old you and present you. And it's right about that time where you see the big difference on how it's pervasively created a lot of really positive approaches within everything within your life, from sleep to hydration to nutrition to all of it. Once you realize that it's quite pervasive, and that that is your standard of pursuing excellence, well, then you find yourself surrounded by excellence, by people who are excellent. You have, your friends are excellent. The sport that you're in, the level that you're operating at, has excellence at that level. I think it's truly like anything in life, that you can be a frisbee golf player, and if it's day one when you start out, if you look at the sport as, well, I found an old frisbee in the ditch, I'm going to become a world champion. I suppose that's one way to approach it. But another way is someone said you can be a world champion in frisbee golf. I spent the afternoon sniffing around on the internet, did a little bit of research, and I found the right frisbee for me at this point in the early days that I think will give me enough of a balance when I throw it that I can learn about the sport, I can learn about the performance, and I can learn more about myself rather than grabbing the garbage frisbee. Buy the right frisbee for you in that phase. And now it's intention,
Mhm.
engaging with intentional decision making to pursue excellence. But then it becomes normalized. Next thing you know, you're standing around with a bunch of guys and girls who are freaking frisbee golf world champions.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is, man. As long
Yeah.
as you pursue the right path, the right trajectory, this is always the outcome.
Right. Excellent. Yeah, it's a great point. And just, yeah, it goes back to, yeah, you sort of gravitate, you end up gravitating towards people that are doing great things and people that are trying to make themselves better today than they were yesterday, regardless of, yeah, whether it's in sport or their skill set or their trade or whatever. And I think, sports are one thing, but you can develop that through any skill set. I said this, I think, in the first episode, like my track and field coach, that same track and field coach that took me through my hurdle development and my starting blocks, my sprinting development, actually, and started me in the mountain bike racing as well. He was the one that said, Dave, whatever you do in life, never stop learning. And again, I've really taken that to heart. And I think that anyone, if you want to have progression in that forward motion, um, develop new skills, like pick up something different that you haven't done before, and then and learn to do it and find out how you go about mastering it or how you go about perfecting it, and just continue to learn, because it's only gonna, again, continue that progression of just bettering yourself for the next challenge, whatever comes. Because, like you say, once you've developed that skill set, and repetition in movements or repetition in whatever it is, learning a skill, you can apply that to anything really, and then and be successful with it. So
You can, but there is a tricky little trap right near the front end that some people miss, and they're still oblivious to it because it's just not a thought construct for them. And this is, I'm not giving this out to any specific person. I'm just saying I see this happening, and it is people, a group will become interested in a thing, and that thing is called becoming awesome. But they'll consider it through the views of through the eyes of a passive bystander, and so they'll academically engage. They'll academically get excited about the pursuit of excellence through a intellectual construct. And so they'll start to feel like they're part of a team, part of a process, part of a thing that's making them better through just simply listening and reading. And they are, to some degree, getting involved in becoming better, for sure.
Mhm.
But where it becomes an important distinction is when that intellectual um, pursuit then gets conflated into the fact that now they're an Ironman. They just finished running an Ironman yesterday, though they don't own running shoes, but they've read a lot about running shoes, and
Mhm.
so there's a thing that happens out there where people get excited to become part of a forward trajectory group, but they're not getting dusty or sweaty or dirty in the process, and therefore they get a false sense of or a conflated sense of how invested they are in their own excellence.
They're almost missing the process. Is that kind of what you mean?
That's kind of what I'm saying is
Okay.
they're involved in the process intellectually.
Yeah, but
They're not they're not
doing
in
the
the
work.
arena.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I gotcha. I follow. I dig.
Well, I mean, what do you think? Do you see any of it yourself, or do you see it as an issue or not? Is it a non-factor?
I know I'm sure that it happens, but I'm trying to think I can if I notice it happening in any groups or anything that we kind of hang out with or that we see, but nothing's really popping to mind. Dave?
Well, maybe
Um,
not, but this is a thought that is on my mind a fair bit because I do see
You're
it,
seeing
and I'm
it?
trying to I'm trying to get people to step into some action.
Okay.
This is one of
Yeah.
my big challenges right now. Now, not for you guys. I mean, you're action oriented, and that's maybe why you're not seeing it much, is because the group that you're hanging out with is action oriented.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at.
Your norm. Maybe you see that everyone's in the game, but that's not what I'm seeing at a more global level.
Okay. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah. Well, I would certainly agree with that on the larger scale, or globally. But yeah, I think I agree with Ali. I think that I think we're blessed that way, or we're maybe a bit lucky that the community that we surround ourselves, or the people that we surround ourselves, are very goal driven, and they're always pursuing the next sort of thing to make themselves better, family oriented, or even career wise, or
always learning
in sports. So that they're for the most part, I'd say they're always learning, always developing. And
I would say it wasn't always that way, but we've really sort of, not that we're super picky about who we hang out with, but I mean, we want people who are like-minded like us and who are kind of living their life similar to us, because we have more in common, and that's who we want to surround ourselves with and spend our time with.
Right.
So I think we've sort of designed it that way. I don't think it's a flaw, like a
No.
Yeah.
And
that is it. That is precisely it. And it's not through luck that you find yourself in that position. That's a shaped or an
it was intentional. Yeah.
However, I was there about a year ago and then I gave away my company in order to come and do this stuff, podcasting, where it's not everyone is highly focused, disciplined, and kicking arse as world champions. So I moved out of a very select circle of high performers and moved into a much broader sphere of not everyone is a performer. And so it is quite a different world out there once you start looking at it on a scale of tens of thousands of people rather than a couple of hundred people, which was my world previously. So maybe you're not seeing it as much as I am because you're me a year ago.
Yeah. Talk to us and we'll have another interview in a year.
Exactly,
We'll see where we're at.
We'll circle around to this in another year, and we'll we'll let you know. But no, I agree. I think, and for the most part, like I say, we're pretty lucky that. But I think that's been a progression, though. It
didn't happen overnight.
Exactly, it didn't happen overnight, and
nor should it.
Even
no, if it did, that'd be really weird.
3 or 4 years ago, it could have been. Even a progression for ourselves, because like I know Ali quite well, and I can, from the outside, I can see the progression that even Ali has transformed or has taken on within the last few years, from fairly introverted. She likes to say that she's an introverted individual.
Still holding on to that title.
I'm really disagreeing with it more and more week after week, because I've seen Ali now kind of really, really,
pushing the boundaries.
And I think that introverted term is no longer
applicable
fits, as maybe as it was before. But that's the progression that I've been able to see with Ali, is that she just continues to look for the next goal, the next thing, and the next, and exactly. Sort of the motto of this podcast is rising out of her comfort zone. And so she continues to look for the next thing that's going to push her out of her comfort zone, whether it's going to be a sport or a fitness goal, whether it's going to be a career goal, whether it's going to be family goals, anything like that. So, and that only inspires me to sort of push, further ahead and because again, there's nothing stopping me.
Because
only my mind is the only thing that that would stop me from.
There's a couple of things. There's a couple of things that are stopping both of you, and you've used both of them. And you talked about your mind for sure. That is obviously the first one that comes to unintended. The second one is titles. Well, Ali's an introvert. No, she's not. No, she's not.
No.
Nor is she an extrovert.
Right.
She is in the moment right now. And so I look at introversion and extroversion as a fluid situation. It's a fluidized person. And so if someone truly believes that they're an introvert and they never can shake that title, then that's how they may think they have to act in every instance. But I can assure
Mhm.
you, if Allie and I were hanging out in a room, we'd be so chill, and she'd be talking so much because we'd be having so many laughs. But you can't do that with everyone.
Mhm.
Maybe she would demonstrate introvert characteristics in a room full of jerks, not cool people, as in.
Accurate.
And
Mhm.
so it comes down to, um, the world around us is fluidized, and we're interoperating in it. And if we can stay in the now, then we do really well. Unless we're in a room full of jerks, and then we just slip off to the side. We didn't become instantly introverted. All we did was adjust to the real time in order to be more efficient and effective in the real time, and then figure out how to outflank it or leave the room and carry on accordingly. And no one ever became introverted. No one ever became extroverted. We just became our best version of ourselves in the fluid moment, if that makes sense.
That does make a lot of sense. I like that actually.
Yeah.
It's a really
At
interesting
the
way
moment,
to think
yeah.
about it. And
The moment
I
you go,
agree with
"Oh,
it.
introvert," like, "Oh, now I'm an introvert. I've got to be introverted." I don't see
It
it that
doesn't
way.
really work. Yeah.
No, no, not at all. And yeah, it's a good way of looking at it. And
Yeah.
you're right. It does. It's all depending on your environment as well, and depending on your surroundings too. Because myself, like I'm fairly outgoing, but depending on where I am, I can kind of close off and shut down if I'm not around, individuals that are, you know,
Bringing
happy, or
that
a
out.
crowd
Yeah.
that are bringing out the best in me, or the best in themselves. Even I'll kind of shut down and quiet down, because that's that's not a comfortable setting for me. Maybe that's not a comfortable environment, and I need to take myself out of that. So
Bad energy you want to leave.
yeah, exactly.
Well, I just did a little bit of that myself out at Operation Pegasus Jump. So I was out there for a week. Turns out I shook way more hands than I ever anticipated I would shake. It was a whole weird moment for me, but we won't get into that. It was just I just met a lot of people, and they
Yeah.
had things to say, and
And it
and
made you uncomfortable because they were so nice to you.
well, the other aspect was there was a lot of that going on, so I had sort of that to contend with, and then the other aspect was handshake. Hey, how you doing? Are you Shaun Taylor? Yeah, yeah. Do you have a minute? Yeah, I do. And then half an hour later, I've heard their entire story from the time they were in diapers until the time they got blown up. And so, I mean, there's a lot to process with each new person, and by the end of that week, like my battery was freaking drained because I was full tilt every single day because I knew I was only going to be there a certain amount of days. So every day got my full day. But by
Yeah.
the end of it, I needed two days off in Victoria just to recharge again.
Yeah.
But it's I was going to say it's a price that I'm happy to pay. It wasn't a price. It was just a little bit of a tax, as it were. It was a bit taxing on me because I really poured myself into the moment, and so that's for me to decide. I didn't have to do that. I could have easily backed off. And like yourself, Dave, there's times when I just didn't want to be there because maybe someone was just a bit too negative,
Hmm.
and I don't want to be around that. But I
Yeah.
kind of challenged myself to some degree to be there for that and to absorb that and try to turn it into good and try to like recalibrate someone down a better path. And looking back on it, even though it was a heavy lift, it was the right lift, and
Hmm.
I have no regrets because I gave it my all, and I think I had some pretty good outcomes, at least for a lot of the people there. And so it was worth my time, and it was worth the push into the uncomfortable position that I was in, the one that I didn't want to be in, by the way. But sometimes that's just what you got to do.
Yeah, for sure. And then giving yourself is that hard for you to give yourself some kind of time off or rest days?
Yeah,
Or
it
yeah,
is. No,
yeah. Even if you need it, it's
worst. It's a double down bad because I poured myself into something, then I've got to take a couple of days off, which I don't like to take off, and then it's like,
yeah,
oh, it's a vicious cycle.
yeah. But if you don't do it, it's like you'll crash and burn, so you gotta take the time.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And in fact, to your point, and you raised an excellent point. So I want to highlight it with before we went out to Operation Pegasus Jump, some of the troops are saying, "Oh, you're bringing your bike out? We'll go riding here. Hey, you're bringing your BJJ stuff out? Can't wait to roll with you." Yeah, chirp,
Mhm.
chirp, chirp. And I said to everyone, "No, I'm not bringing anything out because when I get there, I'll be too busy doing what I got to do out there rather than
Yeah.
all the other stuff." And
Yeah.
so I pushed mega hard on the bike and athletic pursuits right up until the day that we were going to drive to Operation Pegasus Jump, because I knew I wouldn't be getting any workouts in for 10 days. Then when I got there, my psychological and emotional got worked at a 11 out of 10. And then when I got back to Roslyn, I jumped back on the bike, and man, I felt it, because I was a bit frazzled. I was a bit rusty. And then the day after I got off the bike, because I usually ride twice a day, I got off
Yeah.
the bike. Oh man, I'm a bit sore. I'm a bit
Yeah.
soft. I got a bit weak.
It's good. Good.
Good. It was good.
Gotta have that every once in a while. Was that so you had you took 2 spills on one of your videos. Was that just after?
Yeah, that was just after. So how that kind of came about was I was before I left to go to Op Pegasus Jump, the dirt was awesome. I mean, it was hooking up like magic dirt. And then when I came back, it had been really hot while I was gone. So I just rounded a standard issue corner that I'm used to, and there was just that super fine marble dust on top of a flat rock, and there went the bike, and it was me doing a Superman right away. That's the way it is. Conditions changed quite a bit while I was gone, so I just wasn't prepared for it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you just going back to that being in an environment or being in a setting where there may be some individuals that are kind of got that negative energy going on, and sometimes you can be the one to turn that around, depending on how much you put out of yourself, and depending on how much, like I say, you can turn around the energy and maybe be that positive spark that the whole group was maybe lacking, and kind of again
Needed.
turn it around, really.
I agree, but you know what the tricky part is? Sometimes you can be the cause of it,
Right.
and so like you can step in, and if it's a group that's a bit bummed out, and you walk up, "Hey boys, what's up?" and like they just ain't into being happy. Now you're the cause of the
You made it worse.
You tried though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's that.
Good. Oh, Ali, what are your thoughts on pushing past or pushing through? Because you've pushed, because you've pushed things over the last little while, and certainly physically, that's, I think, only overlapped with sort of what you've achieved on the mental challenge side.
Yeah. So one of my kind of specific examples that I had written down was that I think in 2021 we had wanted to do, one of my goals for the year was to do a 22K ruck, which I've never even ran that far, let alone rucked that far. Was that the right year? 2021?
I think so.
I think. And we trained for it and kept adding distance and weight to the ruck and everything. And it went really well. And we ended up doing it 4 times that year instead of just 1.
We did 2 within 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah. And then we did
Two
another one, and then we
functions.
did one in the fall or something. I don't know. We ended up doing a bunch. But to the point of that, of having these hard experiences or physical experiences to draw from is just so beneficial. Like one specific example recently is that I had to give the eulogy, or not that I had to, but I wanted to do the eulogy at my brother's funeral in April, the end of April. And the morning of, I kind of was freaking out a little bit, having some anxiety and a lot of feelings because it's such a hard day. And so I just said to Dave, okay, I have to do just a mini workout, because I just knew I needed that to kind of calm my nerves. And then I'm going to go for a walk, and then I'll be hopefully ready for this, as ready as you can be for something so horrible. And so when I was walking, I literally just started listing off in my head things that I had done that were really hard that I thought I'd never do. So the ruck was one of them. I thought, during that ruck at the 17-kilometer mark, which was, in my opinion, the hardest for me personally, because you've done so many, but you still have a little chunk to go. Maybe it's the 15. I don't know. Right around there, I know I always have a rough time, but so just thinking about how I just kept putting one foot in front of the other, injured at one point. That one ruck we did, I was fairly injured and didn't want to stop. So, and just being like, well, you got through that and it was really hard, but you did it. Okay, so that's one little win, if you want to call it a win for lack of a better word, but just you did that and you can do this too. And then I had to think of other things like doing the fitness show, that's way out of my comfort zone, walking on stage, being
Mhm.
judged and all dolled up like a Barbie, and it was an amazing experience, but it was really hard, and for a long time, I thought I'd never do it, and then I did, and I had a ball, and I'm gonna do another one. So just kind of having these other experiences to draw from that were really hard that I did by choice because I wanted to be able to get through this really difficult day that was a nightmare, really, but to
Made it a
do
little less difficult,
it
but
did because it just gave me a little confidence, and I just thought, even if I can't get through it, I know Dave has got my back and he'll step in for me, but I did get through it because I wanted to do Colin the honor that he deserves. So it just
it not only got through it, but just it couldn't have been better, because you had prepared,
I
and
practiced. Yeah.
again, I think all those physical challenges that you had gotten yourself through, I think that developed a mindset that
You're
there's
just gonna
you
do
can
it.
get
Yeah,
through
and
anything.
that's the thing too is, something else I meant to say before was that doing those things just develops the self-trust. So I just knew, like, you can do it, and just having that confidence within yourself to just know that in the moment, you can do it. I don't know how else to really put it or how else to expand on that. Is just you just do in the moment, like, I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
there's a couple of things there for sure,
okay.
uh, and I think that there's an important distinction between the things that you choose to do and the things that you have to do. So we'll get back to that in a sec. And I also think that there's a certain amount of difficulty that we've all got to face in our lives, so that it's so freaking hard that nothing else will be even harder than what I just went through.
Mhm.
We have just been talking about it over the last few days on the collective, and my example was the Pathfinder course, and it's pretty hard. And once you've done one of those bad boys, you can put it in your back pocket and look into the future and say, "Freaking bring it! Like,
Yeah.
What's
Yeah,
next?
you did that, yeah.
and harder.
Yeah.
You can't give me anything harder." So whatever that is for everyone out there, whatever difficulty that they faced, you need to have something in your back pocket, but not the way that you described it, Ali. You can't go out for a walk and think, what would it be? It should be right there. It should be
Mhm.
always in your back pocket. Like,
Mhm.
that was so freaking bonkers that nothing could be more bonkers than that bonkers. Like, it should be always front and center in your head, or
Mhm.
in your back pocket. Something so crazy that it's always in your mind. So there's that. The second thing is, once you've got that crazy thing, you have sometimes the luxury of choosing to do something, and applying that bonkers thing against it. But then sometimes you don't get the choice. Sometimes you've just gotta,
Mhm.
like, you had to. And so, what you did was you used something that you chose to do that was difficult to help you move through a thing that you had to do.
Yeah,
Good that you've experienced those two things, because if you only experienced one, you only got half of the equation. You've got to get used to being good at doing things that you don't want to do. And
absolutely.
now you've got another example for your other back pocket that's called, I can do the things that I don't want to do when I have to do them. And
Mhm.
so that's a good place to be in. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah,
I agree,
absolutely.
yeah.
I agree, and I don't think it's a necessarily um, a situation where you're trying to seek out stressful challenges or seek out things, but if they present themselves, you've got the tools in the toolbox to be able to kind of go, yeah, I can overcome this. For me personally, um, I would procrastinate, difficult phone calls if I, if I had, banking issues or whatever it was that I had to face. Like, I
I
put a phone call off
I
till the
sense
next
there's
day.
more to the story.
We'll talk after, Sean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I think I already know.
Yeah. But those sort of things, like, I would procrastinate. I would put those off, and then the more things that I accomplished, yeah, whether it was through sport or whether it was through career or whether it was through family, whatever it was, the more things that I, accomplished, the easier things became to face. And so, I no longer procrastinate with those kind of challenging things or those kind of things. I just hit them head on. I just
They become
tackle
less
it with
stressful because you're like, "Oh, it's not a big deal now." It just
exactly. You know,
breaks it down in your
I've
mind.
gotten through everything in my life so far, and here I am. So, you know, what's stopping me? There's nothing stopping me really from having that difficult conversation or doing that difficult task, because there's other than my mind sort of
Mhm.
telling me that, oh, do that tomorrow or
Yeah,
save
putting
that
it
for
off.
another day.
What is it that
putting
you
it
always
off.
tell me?
What's that?
What is it that you always tell me about doing that?
Just do it. I don't know.
No, it's like an army thing. I will circle back.
No, could be the
You also
improvise,
tell it
adapt,
to
and
Josh.
overcome.
No, not that. We also say it to Josh all the time about not putting off what can be done today.
Oh, never pass a fault.
Yeah, there we go. There it is.
That's a good one. That's very RCR.
Right. Yeah.
You know, there is another aspect to what you're talking about, and that is you have addressed procrastination as an example, and so now you don't put things off. You know, whatever the banking, the this, the that, whatever, it just gets done. Bang, 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 bang. But there's a time. So you can, and I'm not speaking about you, Dave. I'm speaking about the theoretical person out there. There's a time when you can be a procrastinator, and then you can change your ways, and then you can become a person of action. And once you're in that phase, you can then kind of get lost in that phase. And by that, I mean, like you just get used to bang, bang, banging things out, but you never actually go to the next logical phase, which is pursue more difficult things to go bang out because you can find yourself in a little bit of a rut, like, hey, look at my day go. I'm nailing everything. My life is so good because it's not that difficult. I just nail, 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 nail. But that's because maybe a person has got comfortable nailing the mediocre day.
Hmm.
And I'm suggesting once you start nailing things, you need to make it an extraordinary day.
Yeah, it's time to just switch it up a little bit.
Add it up, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for
Level
sure.
up. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's all in the pursuance of learning, continuing education, learning more and more things, and not getting comfortable, in just being stationary in a fixed position of like, oh, okay, well, I know how to do this.
Yeah,
Or
I
I know
do
how to
this
do
now. This
that.
is what I'll do for the next 50 years. Like, how boring is that?
Exactly. So just always looking for the next thing that, hey, well, I achieved this. What can I achieve next?
Yeah.
What can I move on to next? What's my next goal? And yeah, we've always got a checklist of and it changes week to week. Sometimes something will pop into our heads, and that'll get thrown on the to-do list or the checklist of things that we want to accomplish, and it's never ending, which I freaking love. I think it's exciting. I think to have that never ending checklist of things you want to achieve.
And by the way, it's exciting for everyone around you.
Right.
I mean, you'd be the worst kind of friend if you weren't inspiring me. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Yeah.
You're the guy that I'm fireman's carrying around all the day, whereas I want to be chasing a guy rather than fireman's carrying him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So my friends, I want to look at them and think, what? He's going to do what? That's redonk. I want some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pursuing it myself, right? So anyone who's got, I won't call it an aggressive growth mindset, but anyone who's got a forward thinking mindset where it's not that you don't ever settle, it's just that you just have a certain sense of joy of life, we'll call it, where you just want a little bit more. And that's not being greedy, that's just being exploratory.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're willing to work for it. It's not like you're just expecting it to fall into your lap. Like, the working for it is the fun part,
Yeah.
I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, and you're right. You find yourself surrounding yourself with those personalities, those type of people where, they're either chasing you or you're chasing them. I mean, my close friend, also named Shaun, who is just kicking ass at the
Must
game
be a
of
Shaun
life,
thing.
and he and I will message each other, throughout the week, and sometimes it'll just be little fitness updates on like, oh, hey, my body weight's at this week, and my body percent, my fat's at this week, and or that's this right now, and oh, I'm lifting this right now, and oh, my time is this, and so it's just like,
That game.
And I'm competitive and we're competitive people, but it's a great bond and a great friendship. And all we're doing is just trying to,
Just pushing
boost
each
each
other.
other
Yeah.
up and push each other to the next level. Cause I'm going, oh shit, those are his numbers. Like I went,
That's right. That's right.
which is actually, there's kind of a funny thing that my son and I, so my son's a reservist with me with the ACPs, and we're even competitive between the two of us, which is a lot of fun.
Dude, have you ever rolled with a savage 19-year-old who can choke you out like that?
Right.
My oldest son, I mean, like, it's bonkers, man. Oh, I get it. I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So he and I, it's kind of a rule that when you come into the armories, you come out of the parade square. At least for myself and the new troops, and a lot of the troops that you drop your kit and you head straight to the pull-up bar, and you do your max pull-ups, and then you drop down, you do your max push-ups. And so he and I are in two different platoons, but it's really fun to watch and really interesting to watch because both of us, because I'll catch him looking over at me, like, so I'll drop my kit and I'll head over to the pull-up bar, and I know he's counting how many pull-ups I'm doing,
sure.
and I know he's counting how many push-ups, because I'll leave and I'll head over to my platoon, and then a corner of my eye, I'll watch him, and I'm counting his, and I kind of go like, oh shit, he did like two more than I did. I got to go back over.
Embarrassing.
So it's it's fun.
As it should be, as it should be. And I mean, it's that's all I ever want to be surrounded by, is that kind of mindset, that kind of, I mean, no one's cutting any throats. It's a bit of fun. It's a bit of competitive spirit. It's a bit of tradition. It's something to look forward to. It's something to dread. It's all of the things that we all need from time to time,
Yeah. And just in the pursuit of, bettering yourself.
Yeah, it gets you all fired up.
Yeah. Preparing yourself for whatever's going to happen tomorrow. So it's good.
Do you do any secret training when his back is turned? Do you get on that chin up bar and get like chinnerific so that you just implode his little peanut with how many chins you're cracking out?
All the time. So we have a pull-up bar just next to us here in the gym. And yeah, I'm hitting it all the time. And you know what? He's probably got one secretly at his.
I bet he does.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'll never forget the day cross country running. So I used to coach with our university with our cross country running team. And when my son, he was probably 13 or 14, 15 maybe. And I would bring him to some of the practices, and I'll never forget the day that during a warm up, even the warm up, like we were still competitive between the two of us. And I'll never forget the day that I couldn't keep up with him. And I thought, well,
there he goes.
There it is. Yeah, there it goes. So it just,
It's a
leveled
fun
up.
moment though. Like I still remember certain points in my boys' lives. They're 19 and 18 now, and yeah, I mean it's inevitable. None of us are invincible or eternal, and when these little moments happen, it's fun, man. I dig it.
It is. It's a lot of fun.
Whenever they show up, they're supposed to show up, and I'm not going to undermine that. I'm going to enjoy the moment for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And it just keeps me pushing to work harder, because now I want to chase him. Now I want to keep up with him.
And luckily, Josh, our other kid, is only almost 7, so
yeah,
you're gonna have that moment all over again in a couple of years.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it might only be 2 years away.
Yeah, it might be. It's pretty quick. Yeah,
could be. Yeah.
So we started off with maybe talking about performance as an athlete, or the things learned through adversity, or the things that I've learned, or the things that you've learned. Is there something to redirect back to specifically that you have in mind that you wouldn't mind talking about, or are you happy with just free flowing? Because I love a good chat, so I've got nowhere to take it specifically.
I know we are coming up on the hour.
Free flowing
too,
is the way to go.
Yeah,
and that was it. I mean, it was really that metaphor, and that sort of that good analogy with training for anything in sport where you're trying to perfect a technique or perfect a sport or master it. Again, that those skills developed, they only transfer into anything you want to tackle in life or face adversities in life. You break it down one step at a time, and you sometimes you have to stop at looking at the overall, maybe overwhelming sort of thing in front of you, and then figure out the smaller steps and the smaller methods that you have to take in order to achieve the greater goal. One step at a time. So which sort of circles it back.
Yeah, that's what I was earlier when I tried to cut you off, when you were talking about the hurdles, about staring down at 10 and how you thought, oh, I'm never going to be able to do this, or how am I going to be able to do this? But looking at 10 of them is overwhelming.
Yeah.
So you have to look at, well, I guess the starting blocks or whatever they're called. I didn't do hurdling, so I'm not sure the terminology.
She was cool.
I was super cool, still am. But yeah, so you and then you did go on to say exactly what I was going to say. So yeah, but breaking down any problem or whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish in your day, if you're looking at your whole day and you think, oh my God, I've got so many things to do, blah, 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 how am I going to do it? Well, you just start with the first easiest one, which is make your bed.
Right.
Which Dave does
every morning
for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I get up first. And then you just go along with it and check off those little wins, and then that gives you momentum to keep going. And when you hit something that kind of pushes down or whatever, traffic, or if you get into a negative mindset, oh, now I'm going to be late for work, and then you're going to tailspin into, your whole day is going to be ruined if you let it. But if you can master your mind and just think, you know what, if I'm a couple minutes late, it's not a big deal. Yeah. Work will still be there when you get there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're I think we've covered
a lot of ground
that I wanted to cover on that topic. And again, just practice much. I did want to touch on, so anytime it's happened numerous times that Ali and I have been out rucking, and we pass people on the trail. And inevitably they always ask us, what are you training for? What are you training? And our answer has always kind of been the same.
Life.
We're training for life. That's
Yeah.
We're training for life. We're training for
whatever
tomorrow is
comes,
going to bring us, so we can handle it. So whether it's a physical challenge or mental resilience, whatever it is, that's what we're out here doing. We're pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone, so tomorrow, whatever comes, is easier to handle. So yeah. Any final thoughts on that, Shaun?
Yeah, training for life. That is precisely what I've done every day of my life. But I like to think of it as this phrase: "I'm in the game."
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the game of life, and if you're asking me what game I'm playing right now, you ain't in the game. The game of life means every day you're in the game. So there's that.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome stuff.
For sure.
Yeah. Cool. So we're going to we'll wrap up today's episode with that.
Do you have a quote? Oh no, Shaun, you have a quote.
So
Shaun,
that's the thing. We're going to spring this on Shaun. So at the end of every episode, we're sort of leaving things with an inspirational few words or a quote or anything like that. So Shaun, you get the honor today of leaving things with whatever words of wisdom or whatever inspirational words you want to throw out there.
Well, thanks for that. I suppose I could throw out a glib comment like facta non verba, or deeds not words, which would be appropriate based on the conversation that we've had. However, I'd like to flippity flop it a little bit. And the quote of the day that I'm going to go with is courtesy of Dave, and it is try to hurdle your way through life.
Amazing. Love it.
I like it. Excellent. Good stuff. Well, thanks, Shaun, so much for coming on and joining on this. I'm certain that we'll have you back.
Please do.
Yeah. We'll hit up Satch and some of the others.
We got a long list of guests that we are hoping to have on the show.
And it's going to be good because,
you will. And it's going to be awesome. And I'm a big fan. And I wish you all the best. And I know that you're going to do great. So keep on keeping on.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Shaun. And thanks, everyone. So everyone can have a great night. And we'll talk to everyone soon.
Okay, bye.
Tech hand swooping in to hit the button.